All right, hey y'all, I'm back down to Chiefs Pit, Timmy Pit, Mark Pitty, Richie Pitty, and we appreciate your comments and requests. And we've had a few requests to talk a little bit about the truck racing days. And so we're going to do a little episode from 1996, our first truck race season with Rich Bickle. And I guess the first race with the 43, the Cummins Dodge. No, that was, the Cummins Dodge, wasn't it? Yeah. We were in Homestead, Florida in 1996. I guess that was the kickoff. Yeah. You want to get started on that, Tim?
Well, as Mark always says, we were, and we've all mentioned it before, but we were taking probably 10 or 15 year old Dodge stock stuff, and Chevrolet and Ford already had, even though it was stock, it was already racing versions.
Well, they'd been racing for the last
Right.
30 years, and
So
Dodge
we
was
were
just
behind
getting
the
back
eight
in.
ball.
Yeah.
Not to make excuses, but we were already behind. So, like you said, we took basically stock valve covers. Didn't think to make fabricated ones, and that's what put us. We was talking about what put us out of the first race.
But we didn't have a lot of time between to get started, so
Because it was
they wanted
boom, boom, boom.
at this point in time the Dodge people wanted these valve covers run,
Right.
but with sprayers and things like that.
So we had people putting the sprayers in, which is Eddie Brown.
Eddie Brown, he'd weld them up, and then we had to mill them all to get down.
So we were taking the stock valve cover gaskets and making these little grooves, but somehow or another, what a bit silver.
But that was just one of 150,000 problems we had.
Yeah, but I was trying to remember what put us out of the race.
Exactly. But we just bring them back.
Remember the front covers? We had to cut,
Yes.
weld it all up.
Cut the block down and half moon the water holes.
Yeah.
We was just lucky to be there for them first few races.
And racing against the stuff that we was racing against at the time.
And racing against good people, good outfits, because Skinner was there with the RCR, and I guess was Will Lynn their crew chief then.
He was the general manager of that outfit.
And they were the truck to beat, and then you had all these other people there that was just
But all right. So we was running 9-to-1 motors, right?
at that time.
I think so. Yeah.
9.5 to 1.
So is ain't that the same thing as running the Bush series at the time or not?
Yes. I'm
So
pretty sure.
So here we were. Everybody else was building a truck team. Well, the Chevrolets and Fords were lucky enough that they had something to base off of. We were starting from scratch.
They had nothing.
If it wasn't for Joey Arrington, we would have really
we'd
had
been in
nothing.
trouble. That's right.
Because Joey had been building Dodge engines for the Keselowskis and I said if it wasn't for Joey
what was
Arrington.
the
If it
number?
wasn't for Joey and the Keselowskis.
Yes.
You think about Bob and Ron and Joey, if they hadn't have been stuck with Dodge through the ARCA days, we really wouldn't have had nothing. But we were fortunate we had the guy,
Yes.
which is the daddy, the chief.
Mm-hmm.
But we struggled. But oh, what fun it was. I mean,
And
we
it
were
was
competitive.
But it was a year. It was into the next year before the real engineers like John Worley and
Ted Flack.
before they got involved. So it took. We
Well,
were
like you
basically
said-
taking road car stuff.
Yeah, streetcar engines versus race car.
Well, in their
engines.
defense, it took them a while to get up to, hey, what are we doing here? Because it just kind of happened.
Right.
It was just pushed in there.
But Flack and Worley, they didn't really get involved till the next year. And when they did, it was on, and it was some prime.
Oh, some great stuff.
it was good stuff.
Yeah, it just kept getting better and better as years went
Every
on.
year, the support from those folks got
But
better and better.
I didn't even think about that. And I was glad for us to have an opportunity to run the Dodge stuff because we grew up with Dodge and stuff. But it was also nice to see the Keselowskis finally get a real deal
Oh, absolutely.
in the NASCAR world, and then they
course.
give them a hold, and then look at where.
Well, not only they get a shot, they produced.
Oh, they did. I mean, yes.
Bob won a race, right?
Yeah, because Ron had run some Grand National stuff back in the '70s, and then Bob had took over for the ARCA stuff, and they were
even
ready
when we ran ARCA with you,
with Bob. Yeah, he was there, and Ron.
Bob and Ron were there then, and they helped us a bunch. But
Yep.
Well, and like you said, the 150 million problems we had.
Oh,
Some of the stuff that we did work out by having those issues, it was they basically took all this stuff and went off the side and started fresh.
Well,
Because remember
yeah.
the fuel pump, etc.
Yes.
It
oh,
would
so
come-
many things.
Yeah.
and just the simple stuff that we all had input in to fix.
Now,
I mean, it wasn't just the engine stuff we were
no,
fighting.
the body style.
The
too.
bodies and the aerodynamics.
Oh, yeah.
We were all trying to play catch up to the other manufacturers.
I tell you, we're
It took 2 or 3
the only,
years.
the
But
only
it
thing.
happened.
There was 2 things we had going for us. You had, like you said, the chief working on the problems,
Yep.
and Bickle was a pretty dadgum good driver.
Oh, he's a great driver. Yeah.
He could jump in there and go.
Yeah,
So short tracks, we had no troubles really. He was going to be there, but Homestead, he was pretty good.
Right.
Oh, he done a good job. He made up for a lot of stuff we didn't have, but
And it was a good opportunity for Rich too. You know, he'd been on the short
Right.
track and
We'd
like
run
you said,
against him.
phenomenal.
We'd been running against him. You know, he'd been struggling in the cup side because that's where we were trying to make races, and he was trying to make some races and stuff. So we'd already knew Rich Bickle, and we'd raced against him in the ARCA stuff a few times. But it was good to get together and have a talent like that guy be your driver.
well, it was good to get to race with him and get to know his mother, Ma Bickle.
Yep.
And some other good racers too. You had Hal Dooley.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Poole.
Had Billy
Zero.
Roach.
Yeah.
Billy Roach was with us.
Billy
down there.
Roach, Mike Cheek.
Yeah,
And,
Mike
and,
Chick
and
was
Kenny
Creek
Udy,
Chief.
little Udy.
Yeah.
We had a good little crowd, and I enjoyed that
What was
first
the
year.
body man's name? Gosh, I can't remember him.
Was it Frosty?
Nah.
He come along. there.
Frosty come around later. He come from Tex Powell and them.
Yeah. Anyway, and then you had Brent Slotty. Did he come the first year?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Second.
and then Travis Owens, who's
Travis
been on
was
our
with
show.
us.
Right.
Travis was the machinist back at the shop. He was right out of the machinist
I was
school.
talking with Travis the other day, and he said that he didn't go to the first truck race. He stayed back because we were so far behind. He had to get trucks.
But he was
ready.
a part of the team.
No, he was. But I'm saying
Yeah.
we couldn't spare him because he had to. They had to
And
get the
it's
guys
hard
back
to
in the
put
shop.
together. Looks
Trying to
like
get ready
you-
for next
the
race.
next race.
Did you
Yeah.
travel right off the bat?
No, I did not.
That's what I say. It took
Yep.
several years of,
Yes.
and then you was here, and then you went over to the truck shop for a while.
Yep. Well, and I spotted a little while for Bickle till he got mad at me.
But you know, we met a lot of great friends. Even if they were on other teams, we still have relationships with a lot of these people
still
from
do.
the truck days that we're all still
Well,
friends
and
today.
I missed some of them guys. Yeah, Corelli. Yep.
John
Now, we
Dennison,
showed-
who was my boss over there, but you know he was kind of in there. And one of his memories was, gosh, what was that? Monroe, Washington, and they had us in the goat and pig barns.
Yeah,
for
because
a
it was
garage area.
fairgrounds.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they, John Dennison did not know me at the time, and he asked somebody. He said, "Who is that idiot over there singing?" Because I was over there changing valve springs and singing, probably Bob Seger or something like that.
Yep.
And from this, he tells everybody that story every time. He said the first time I ever met Tim, he's over there singing, and everybody else is worried to death, sweat rolling on. He's just doing his deal right up under the.
Now
That's
this
pretty cool.
the '96 Homestead race. We were getting ready to leave, and Daddy got a phone call from Bob Rahilly. Him and Dick were putting together a truck for Jim Rosenblum, the 51 truck.
Yep.
And for some reason, and I don't know the deal, I didn't really care, but we were going to be there tuning the 43 engines, and they needed a driver. And this was the day before we check in, and he called over here and said, "Hey, I need a favor from you, Chief. Can Richie come drive my truck?" So I went back and packed my driver's stuff and throwed it on the truck.
Didn't Adam come over and giving you hell about it and hanging out with you
Oh
over
yeah,
there?
well,
Yeah, because Adam was there at the
Before
first
he
Yes,
ever
yes,
started
yes,
driving,
yeah.
he might have been go-kart
Yeah.
racing.
yeah, but we
I remember that.
That was my very last race as far as in a stock car. But Ron, Bob and Dick Rahilly, they were handling it, and we run pretty good. I mean, they got good engines. I mean, them guys, I could step on it and I'd come down that straightaway. I was struggling in the corners, and it was because of me, because I hadn't been in a race.
Oh, and it
vehicle.
was a flat track.
Yeah, and I hadn't.
Homestead was flat.
Right,
when
and I
we
didn't.
first started.
Right, and I didn't. It was more like it was like Ontario or Indianapolis.
Or Indianapolis, yeah.
And
or
it took me a while to get
Indianapolis.
used to it. But man, once I got used to it, we were coming up through the field pretty
Yep.
good. I think I ended up running 17th or something in the race.
Well, Bob and Dick helped us, when we went to Fords and started doing the Fords.
Oh, they've always been good help.
But
for us.
they always tell me how much Daddy helped them at some of their darkest hours. They was ready to give up.
And it reciprocated.
You're right.
Yep.
But that was, you talking about Adam, he was telling me after the race that him and Richard were sitting up on the pit box watching, and that truck I could pull out down the straightaways and I could just fly by people, and they was just laughing because how much power that dang truck had, because it was a Chevrolet, and we could go. But like I said, it was, if I'd had a little more experience on that flat track, we'd have been run really, really good. But that's showing up the day before and jumping in.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I think we ended up on the 43 having a valve cover gasket leaking or something.
Yeah, which is what you started the show was talking about what happened.
Yeah.
So we were trying to remember what happened.
And
back then.
I think Bickle was a little bit ticked because his valve cover leaked, and then his engine guy outrun him on the racetrack at the end of the race.
Oh yeah, I never thought about it that way.
But yeah, and you know, you remember going to Homestead there for the first time? It was there was nothing there.
Yeah, I never seen
Because they
Homestead.
were recent off of the was it Hurricane Andrew?
Andrew, I think.
Yeah.
It was
But-
a hurricane. It basically devastated all the
I was-
vegetation.
But I always what, and I ain't been there. Oh man, I ain't been to Homestead since 2010. But the difference from when we went the first time in '96 to 2010, and those that have been later, which is going, you've probably been there since then. The way that place has grown.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere you looked was just cement pads where they were houses. And
Yeah.
that
It was
hurricane.
sad.
Yes,
So
it was sad.
Sad.
Get away from the
And
racing.
but Air Force Base was still active then because they were coming in. At that first race, they would still fly in.
Yeah,
They'd come
that's
in
right.
buzzes. Remember that?
So
That's right.
When did me and Daddy go to the Alligator Farm right there?
I think
Y'all went down there
for a test.
for the
yeah.
first Dodge test, right?
Yeah, and we
Because
stayed.
just you and Daddy went because we stayed back.
And we got back one evening, or I forgot how it was, but he said, I've been coming down here all my life, and even when they went to Daytona, he said he'd see those billboards and the airboat rides. He said, "Would you take me over and let me ride them things?" And I'm like, "Would I?"
Yeah, would you take me?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, you just never, like you said before,
'Cause,
you,
yeah, I think
you
you're
didn't think of him thinking. But we went over there, and we done the boats, and it's pretty cool to do the flat boats.
Well, yeah, we went back in the later
Right.
years and we all rode them, yeah. Or
Well-
not the later years, the next year.
Yeah, next year.
But
yeah.
the fence, it ain't very tall, and there's 14-foot alligators laying there, and we got a picture somewhere when you put it in
If I can find it.
of Daddy
If I can find it.
leaning up next to the alligator. But they had a snake show, and neither one of us wanted no part of going over and watch that reptile snake show.
But them old boats, because like you said, we went back the next year with Travis and me and you, and them things was loud.
Cal and
You
Daryl.
had to put the,
What was it? Yeah, it was just 350 engine with a
Yeah.
big old
They
fan.
give
on
you
it, right?
earplugs.
you had to put the
Yeah.
earplugs, but it was still so loud. I didn't.
Yeah.
But that was kind of fun. But you remember now, going down to the Homestead, Grandfather Petty. This was we were
I was
racing.
going to get rid of
we
there
were
was
in
a fruit
March.
stand down there.
We were. It was March when we was going in there.
And there's miles of tomato
he would-
plants down there.
Now,
What's Homestead?
When you went to Daytona and tested in February back in the day, then you'd come back with oranges.
Right.
Yep.
Because that was
Indian
when
River fruit.
they were in season, so you'd load the truck up with oranges and come back, and everybody'd get them for Christmas and stuff like that.
Yeah, when they tested in December, yeah.
December, but
Yep.
for Homestead, man, before we left, he come and give you a list. Told you.
It was a whole, I guess it'd be a half a bushel, but it was a big box of you didn't get, the guy would always tell you, get them right here because tomatoes are ripening up a little bit as they sit, but he'd make me bring home a case, sometimes two,
Bushels.
and I'd have to put them in the truck,
Of almost ripe tomatoes.
Right.
Not ripe tomatoes.
and if they
Almost
wasn't right,
right,
well, did you
yeah.
hear about rotten?
Yeah.
By the time we get home, but and it wasn't but what 12
Oh,
hours.
but I can remember he'd come down here. Timmy, you got my tomatoes?
Yeah.
Oh, he'd be
Well, you know,
happy
they-
to have-
Sonny, you got my tomatoes?
Yeah,
I don't mean to make this a Homestead show because we was talking about the first race,
Yeah.
but a couple years into the racing, you remember we flew down there. By that time, Richard had his own plane, and we flew on the
yeah.
King
company
Air?
plane.
Something
Either
like
way,
that.
Mickey Pugh was
Mickey Pugh.
pilot. But we dropped grandmother off in Daytona Beach.
Yep.
Because
see
she
her
was
friend.
still friends with Miss Johnson,
Johnson.
that was the nurse when
Nurse.
grandfather got hurt.
Yes.
And then we'd go to Homestead and race, and then we'd stop by and pick her up on the way home. But
Oh, we was
we
coming
better
back
have
out
our
one time.
maters with us, hadn't we?
We were coming back at one time. We got in a storm.
That was the same
Same trip.
coming back.
Because we was having to land to pick up grandmother.
But
And
that,
Jimmy Hensley was driving for us then.
that plane was dropping and going back up, and I remember Mickey leaning over and pulling the curtain because he had to get it dark.
Well, and then Timmy and Joey
They were
Arrington was on the
sweating.
plane with us.
I didn't think
I had
much about
never-
it. I didn't think much about it, but I looked up there and seen the pilot sweating. And
Well,
they
yeah.
had white knuckles.
And Mickey Pugh didn't
No,
sweat.
no.
Mickey Pugh could drive the plane.
So I was a little
He was part
concerned.
of the air cabin.
But Timmy
Amen.
and Joey, they got off. They said, "We're gonna rent a car and go back. We're not getting back on that plane."
And grandmother was just cool. Keep going. I'm
She
gonna get on
didn't
the
care.
plane.
She didn't.
You know, Mickey spotted for me when we raced.
Yeah.
Mickey,
Oh,
he needs to come up here and be on the show sometime.
Yeah. But
Oh, speaking of Homestead, going out. You remember what was the Well Harbor Inn? We'd go down there and eat that big.
Oh, in
buffet.
Alamorado?
Oh
Was that Alamorado?
Osmerada, yeah. But you'd
Somewhere
go down,
thereabout.
But you'd go down there and they'd have every kind of seafood. I guess it was about a buffet type deal. But we went down there about every time we went down there.
But remember, we was on that plane. Everybody was just talking, and everybody was getting along really good.
Oh, back to the plane.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I ain't done with the plane. And I had never, I mean, I'd been scared on an airplane before, but never really been just, like you said, a white knuckle scared. And after that, I mean, I've never been right on a plane since.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. I ain't much
Got a
on
little,
it.
little PTSD for the plane.
It did, but like when I got off,
It built confidence for me.
yeah.
Because we got through it.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
speaking of Joey, when I said, hey, y'all do what you want to, and I told Grant, I said, I ain't getting back on that thing. Well, Timmy, we're already through it. And Joey said, hey, I'll help you rent that car.
I'll help you drive.
I know the way home. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
yeah.
It was
Yeah.
that was a scary moment for a minute.
But I wasn't going to ride in your car with the car with you because I was going to stay on the plane and take care of grandmother Petty.
That's right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hear you.
But you know, we
Well,
got
I
back
mean-
on. We got back on the plane. The storm had passed, and it was a smooth flight back in.
It was.
But there was tornadoes all over
I
the
know.
place.
When Mickey told us, he said, when we get on the ground in Daytona,
We're good.
we're good.
I still didn't believe him.
Yeah.
I was done. Remember, just speaking of flying with Mickey, it was the middle of the summer one year, going out to Kansas or somewhere, and remember how the snow was just
Yeah.
it was like 80 or 90 degrees on the ground, and I just couldn't get over it because them planes didn't get up that high, but it was just it was a blizzard up in the air.
Ain't it crazy? As kids, we remember stories about Daddy driving the van, and then as adults working in the business, we remember our airplane flights.
Oh yeah.
But we still had to drive a lot of places. But it was
Well,
really
more so than
It was
most.
really a luxury
Yep.
and luxury to be able to fly.
And then back to that first
Wait
Homestead
a
race.
minute. That's fine.
Okay, go ahead,
But you remember? I guess it was Cal Northrup or somebody getting on an airplane, and Richard was up in first class. What did he say? It must be nice being up here in first class. And Richard looked at him and said, "Just be glad you're flying and not driving."
Yeah, no kidding.
Exactly what I told him.
Yeah. So anyway, what was you gonna say?
No, I was just going to say, we talked about Homestead when we went down there getting over the hurricane, that the surrounding area was awful, but the racetrack itself
Oh, it was beautiful.
pristine.
Oh, it was beautiful.
They,
It's brand new.
Yeah.
I loved it down there.
But, well,
And speaking of, it was, I don't know if it was at the Well Harbor Inn, but there was one of them little lighthouses and they had the marks of how high.
That was Well Harbor Inn, I
yeah,
believe.
from that one of them hurricanes
How
that
high
came
the
through.
the flood level
But
from the
they
hurricanes.
had more than one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
The magic marker like we do on the snow out here.
What was the restaurant right there?
How many years of snow we got?
No, I know.
How
It's
they were.
bunches of it.
The restaurant going out the Mutineer.
Mutineer.
Oh,
yeah.
that was.
yeah.
I love that
That was
place.
when we first went to Homestead. There was the Mutineer and two hotels, and that
all
was
I'm saying.
it.
Yeah. I got.
And a 7-Eleven, I guess.
Speaking of gators, I think that was the first time I ever had fried alligators.
Is that right?
At the Mutineer.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was good. Yeah.
Enjoyed it. Homestead, and there was an Italian place too, the Capri or something.
Yeah, back over in town. Yeah.
We have got to do our buffet Benny show
Yeah.
of all the restaurants we've eaten.
Well, that was.
But we were very fortunate to be a part of the Dodge comeback,
Yes.
the original for the Truck Series, and then obviously when they come back to the Cup Series in 2000 was even bigger.
Yeah.
But I feel like we helped some of them engineers
Oh,
learn.
we did.
Hey, we all work together.
Yeah.
And it was just some good mechanics,
They helped
some
us
good
learn.
engineers,
Yeah.
And then once
and a
we
good
got.
relationships that our dad
And
had.
then once we got good parts, because we had struggled with them other parts, man, it was on. And
Yeah.
we had some good stuff, didn't we?
I thought so. We were comparable to
Well,
anybody.
and made good friendships with
Oh,
those,
we
with
did.
John Worley
Oh,
and which
Ted
they
Flack.
Daddy and Ted Flack. But
Definitely.
we rekindled
Oh, it
friendships
was.
they had from the
Yeah,
'70s.
because yeah.
So also a guy that helped us too was Bill Hancock.
Bill Hancock.
With
Oh,
our
Bill
racing
Hancock,
engines.
yeah.
So we've got to mention him because
The
he's
Chicken Man.
going to be a whole episode.
Oh yeah, we
in
got a
itself.
whole episode on Bill Hancock.
So-
Maybe we can get him to stop by here sometime, be on the show with us.
Maybe.
The invitation has been extended.
Well,
Yeah.
there's another one for the books. You got any comments and any good memories of Homestead or whatever?
Wait a minute, before you get off,
Yes, sir.
the fruit stand was called Robert is Here, and I hope it's still there because it had milkshakes there too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because they had them
With a
key lime pie
coconut
ones.
and
Yeah.
pineapple.
Yeah.
So anyway, had to mention Robert is Here. Go ahead.
All right, well, like and subscribe. Hey, head over to our online store. We got some cool stuff for sale, and hey, appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.